Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a game. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's kind of been a buzz recently on the interwebs, and that is Baulders Gate 3. So, we're going to talk about it. We're going to give one man's very humble opinion on it, and yeah, so let's jump right on in. So the game creators of Baldur's Gate 3, Larian Studios, I have much respect for because they have produced one of my most favorite games of all time, and I think, you know, maybe of less equal renown, but at least to me, Divinity Original Sin 2 was a amazing game. Very easily, it's been one of my most memorable and cherished single-player gaming memories in all my life so far. I guess you could describe it as a confluence of excellent story design, intriguing game mechanics, and a cast of enjoyable side characters to adventure with, led easily to what I could probably say so far. I mean, I know Divinity Original Sin came out Original Sin 2 is what I'm talking about. Came out a couple years ago, but even still, I have not played a game to match it yet. Game of the decade, I might even say, for those who enjoy RPGs. Fun little personal note, while I was playing Divinity Original Sin 2 for the first time, it was one of the first times I ever shed a tear at a game ending because I had just gotten so wound up and wrapped up tight with the story and the characters, and I just wasn't ready for it to end. I mean, sure, I could play it again, but you can never really get that first experience magic back of a game, and I'm sure, some of us have seen that Kermit the Frog meme of, when you finish a good game, you're pondering the meaning of life because, you just don't know what to do now. You were so emotionally wrapped up in the game. Yeah, it was a beautiful game and an experience that, I can look back on and smile through memories like Lucis Sing for Me, finally confronting the final boss in the game, and just the good time I had. So with the release of Baldur's Gate 3, doesn't measure up to my expectations. Well, me personally, my opinion doesn't matter. I mean, obviously it's measured up to the community's expectations. Not quite, but in the best kind of way. Baldur's Gate 3, in my opinion, is the most flawless adaptation of Dungeons and Dragons, or the Dungeons and Dragons experience, the source material that the game itself is based off of, with the Forgotten Realm stuff, have ever experienced. I was someone who grew up with tabletop role-playing games in my childhood, and I met some of my closest friends to this day through it. To see and experience, the game I've known for so long represented so well on the screen, it's really quite special. When, I've done about 2 to 3 playthroughs of Baldur's Gate now, when I was playing through, I truly felt swept up in the world and blown away with how much effort the designers had put into the game. High praise is just warranted in all the correct ways when it comes to this game. It was truly enjoyable. But in my estimation, when compared to Divinity, because that's my closest comparison, yeah, I'll state that straight off. The game by itself, masterpiece, love it, truly enjoyed it, worth the time. But, coming in with that comparison to Divinity, there was a couple things that, slightly irked me about the game, but it was still very fine. These are like my pet peeves almost, nothing really that good, or that bad, I should say. Well, so first let's start off with what I liked about the game. The infinite and limitless possibilities of character customization from tabletop experiences have been brought over into the game in a way that feels seamless. From multi-classing feats to character abilities to everything in between, the devs have done a fantastic job when it comes to adapting the, immense wave of anything and everything you can do in D&D. Of course, there are some limitations that they had to put in, but it is hardly noticeable with how much variety and strategy is in the game. You are truly left feeling that you need a second or third run to experience everything, and that's great because I want to play more of this game. I have hundreds of hours in it already, and so the game really encourages that that need. So for a game, I guess that's good. To Some extent, a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking at Divinity through rose-colored glasses, but the choices in this world feel or felt weighty and important. While few and far between, certain decisions do have long-lasting impacts on the world that cannot be fixed. I mean, that's always been the problem with some games that, decisions truly don't really mean anything and they'll just railroad you into the decision the devs wanted. No, you can make choices in this game that will permanently affect the world that you cannot go back and fix, which I think is very, very important in a role-playing game to help me get into the world and feel like I'm actually, a part of something that's, being changed, which is very, very important. So, the story of the game, it was truly engaging and had me on the edge of my seat trying to figure out what was going on with the tadpoles in Act 1, the Shadow Curse in Act 2, and what was going on with the final boss in Act 3. The game never lacked engagement. Ah, God, English words, what are they? The game never really lacked engagement for me and kept me going through hundreds of hours of gameplay. Now, here is my slight pet peeves. Again, these do not really affect the quality of the game. I still loved it. Easily 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. But this is just, some thoughts I had about the game. For me, what made Divinity great was that I truly got wrapped up in my companion side quests. They felt like just as much important to the game as the main quest, and I wanted to see them done. From Losa, literally fighting her inner demons, and you know, if in getting revenge on somebody in the end, and Sybil's quest to be more than what she is at the start had me truly wrapped up in the character stories, which in turn only had me that much more invested in the world because I was emotionally connected to the characters and I wanted to see their desires and quests through. That's more or less the explanation. The companions in Baldur's Gate 3, they're great, voice acting wonderfully done, but I don't know. There was just some spark of interest that was missing from the companions that I didn't really care too much. I mean, I joke around with my friends that I get high on something called main story juice when I play RPGs, and I just want to bulldoze my way through to the final quest. So that could have played a part, but all the companions felt like were my rogues gallery of a peanut gallery that threw out occasional comments and was just there to facilitate my main quest to the end of the story. Feel I didn't really feel like I needed to do their quests or felt like it was important to me, bar one exception, which I'll explain shortly. um, was it how they were presented? How the quests were structured? I don't know. This is something for me personally, but the companions just didn't really click. I did love Shadowheart's quest, that was the exception, and I highly, highly recommend that if you do decide to pick up the game, you pick her as one of your first companions because it is a really engaging quest, and it had the closest to what I felt in Divinity for what I expected out of characters. Yeah. So the companions just didn't do it for me on the same level that Divinity characters did, and I still love the companions. They're still great, but just not to the same level I got wrapped up in Divinity. The only other thing was the world is titanically expansive, and if you're a new person getting into RPGs, might be a little bit overwhelming. You're perfectly able to take the game at your own pace and not explore everything, and the game will be fine. You'll still be able to progress in the main story, but it's very easy to get overwhelmed and very easy to, simply miss out on critical parts of the game because it's just so big. I can count many times on my 2 playthroughs where I'd look back at the previous acts realizing that I had forgotten a critical weapon for a build, or I hadn't talked to an NPC to get a quest, and, with those acts locked off, you can't go back and do it. And I'm just like, God dang it, because you could always say, well, just go do it in a second run, or third, fourth, fifth, ad nauseum. While that's true, You invest a lot into this game. There's a lot of time, hours, and energy that go into playing a full campaign of Baldur's Gate 3. And just saying, we'll go back and do it all over again, well, you're talking about like a 30, 40, 50 hour experience minimum. So it's not that easy. So it was way too easy to miss stuff in this game, which, is both a credit and just a slight pet peeve to me. But overall, still fine. The game is still enjoyable and still playable with the expansiveness. It is more of an annoyance for myself, and, like I said, I admitted I tend to focus more on the main story. But overall, I loved Baldur's Gate 3. The hours of entertainment that I got was well worth the money, and I can highly recommend it to you as a consumer. I'm even now starting to do multiplayer with some close friends, and it's only increased what the game has to offer. I can highly recommend multiplayer. If you have a group of friends to play it with, the already amazing experience becomes doubly as more enjoyable because you're exploring it with friends, and there's a lot of tomfoolery you could have with friends in this game. While it personally may not have hit the grand heights for me that Divinity Original Sin 2 did, it is a very close second and easily should be Game of the Year, well worth whatever price that they will be charging for it. And me personally, I will be right here supporting Larian with whatever endeavors that they come out for this game and future games, because they have most assuredly earned it. Well, thank you ever so kindly for tuning back in. That's all we're going to have for today. Leave your comments down below what you think about the game. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, I'd love to have a conversation. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.